The pipe bombs were a huge component of January 6th,
Mm.
and it was something that was solid. It was evidence that you could look at. Intelligence was purposely kept from me. I was denied the resources that I wanted. 59 months I've been waiting for this day. They've always said that January 6th was the largest investigation in FBI history. I do think the BBC, the editing that they did, I think was highly inappropriate.
Now, it was one of the enduring mysteries of the whole January 6th fandango. Who left two unexploded, thankfully, but viable pipe bombs outside the Democratic and Republican headquarters on the eve of the Capitol riots? I mean, who better to talk to on the day the FBI finally, 4 years, have arrested a suspect? He has allegedly links to Antifa. He has Democratic donating family members. But all in all, he seems like a pretty normal bloke from Virginia. So what the hell is going on? Let's talk to ex-Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund. Mr. Sund, good evening. Thank you for joining us. You were intimately involved with the investigations around that day, protecting the Capitol and the fallout ever since. Can I get your reaction first off tonight to that mystery? We're looking one step closer to finally being solved.
Absolutely. And Harry, thank you very much for having me on.
Welcome.
59 months I've been waiting for this day. From day one, I've been saying that these pipe bombs being placed, they couldn't have been placed at found at a worse time. They diverted resources away from the West Front where I could have used them. It was an absolute diversionary tactic that caused a major impact to our security effort. So for me, it was a huge, I've been waiting for this for a long time. We've had a couple of times where, media started reporting and they thought they had something, but I wanted to wait until we got some official commentary on it. And the way this one opened up, I knew for sure that they had something. I just finished reading the criminal complaint in support of the affidavit, and it looks pretty strong.
So, slightly embarrassingly for the FBI, the public suggestion that they've made is that this isn't new evidence. This isn't something that hasn't been suddenly a new development, but this is evidence that's been reevaluated that the agency has had for a number of years but hasn't acted on. Obviously, one of the biggest conspiracies, well, there's a lot of conspiracies around this case. One of them being that the FBI had deliberately gone slow on that. Dan Bongino, who's now currently number 2 at the bureau, had publicly made that allegation before he went into the job. He hasn't repeated it since, but he was very vocal about it before. This isn't a great look for the FBI. That actually, lo and behold, enough, as you say, enough evidence to charge and it looks strong was sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere in DC for the last 59 months.
You're absolutely right. It's very concerning. A lot of people are thinking they came up with this $500,000 reward, and that's finally what's going to break it loose with some tips coming in. It wasn't tips. It was information they've had since January 2021, the phone records. And this is all just basic 101 investigation. It was the license plate readers. The guy drove a vehicle past a couple of license plate readers in the area and picked up his license plate. Then from the video, they identified a height. They have from the cell towers and his cell phone. They identified the cell phone records, which we've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
Basic police work. Identified the individual and then pulled his bank records. You follow the money. And it took them right to the bomb making material. Basic 101. Why this wasn't solved in the first 3 to 6 months, I have no idea.
Even if it was, I mean, let's unpack that. Do you believe it was a sort of deliberate effort to go slow, or was it just there wasn't enough imperative to get to the bottom of this? Obviously, it is a serious, the bombs thankfully did not go off, but they were viable. Was it that, there was just so much to process in the fallout of those events 4 years ago that this one just went on the back burner? Or do people that say that was deliberately sort of brushed under the carpet have a point?
So, when you look at it, they've always said that January 6th was the largest investigation in FBI history. They brought resources in, they brought people in from field offices across the country to investigate the individuals that were involved in January 6th. The pipe bombs were a huge component of January 6th, and it was something that was solid. It was evidence that you could look at. Sure, you didn't have an individual with his phone records right there in the Capitol that you wanted to arrest. It just took a little bit of work. Why they didn't focus the resources on that, it's hard to say why, but it is concerning that this is basic investigations that could have been done very, very easily. and this could have, I think, answered a lot of questions. Now that they have a suspect in mind, and that they've identified, it'll be really interesting to see, what links they have, if there's any co-conspirators, it was anybody funding him. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
You faced some criticism that day in the fallout of what happened, those scenes we saw unfold at the nation's capital. Do you still feel slightly vindicated today by the fact that actually, the FBI was as much to blame of getting this stuff wrong as anyone else?
Well, I think the lack of their ability to solve this in the first administration, I don't think gives me an additional vindication. I think I've been vindicated with the congressional reports that shows that intelligence was purposely kept from me. I was denied the resources that I wanted on January 3rd, denied the resources that I repeatedly asked for on January 7th. On January 6th for 71 minutes. And Congress came out and actually in a December 2024 report exonerated me by name. Those are the key things. The big thing I'm worried about is, now that we've seen this person identified, they're going to start pressing charges. I'm really interested in the link analysis. Who's in his network? Who has he been communicating with? Who's been giving him directions? How did he pick these locations? That I think is really where I'm going to be in to see a little more information about what happened on January 6th. And I think the American people, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Do you believe they were a distraction to? Well, obviously, I think they were a distraction. Do you think that was an intentional, to pick both the DNC and the RNC? As you say, requires a certain amount of motive and a certain amount of thought. Do you believe, is it your gut feeling that they were designed to draw resources away from the Capitol that day?
Absolutely. I've always felt that way. The fact that they were placed not far from the Capitol. Both those sites are on the south side of the Capitol within just blocks. They were located literally within 10 minutes of the riot getting out of control on the West Front, the first one at the RNC, which caused significant resource to be sent in that direction. And then the second one's found a short time later, about a half an hour later, right when we're in the middle of the fight. It couldn't have happened at a worse time. I've always felt that it was a diversionary tactic. I always felt that I was concerned there was going to be a third and possibly a fourth one. So thank God for that didn't happen. But I absolutely do believe it was a diversionary tactic. The fact that they were placed at two opposing political offices, I think also is to kind of send people in different directions. So I think those locations were purposely picked. It'll be interesting to see what they get out of the investigation.
Since the days of Al Qaeda's bombing attacks across the West, it is remarkably hard, or should be remarkably hard, to buy components for bombs. There are ingredients, there are batteries, certain chemicals that are automatically red flagged, where if you're buying them in any quantity, something clearly has also badly gone wrong there, that they weren't able to, despite trying, the FBI weren't able to sort of pin credit card and mobile phone data to purchases of things like industrial batteries that go into these things.
So when you're looking at it, you're thinking of the identifying these suspects in advance. So for a while, the FBI has had, especially since 9/11, the terrorist attacks of 9/11, have had a program where they try and go out, they meet with some of the industry leaders to identify where people may be buying precursors to explosives, ANFO, ammonium nitrate, things like these. But to buy something like this is a general. This is like somebody might go in and buy some stuff for home repairs. It's a couple of plumbing pipes. It's some steel wool. It's some 9-volt batteries. It's not,
you just, it's just too small to sort of be
right,
red flagged.
It's too small. It's not a quantity that's going to cause a significant, it's not going to take down a building, but it could cause some serious loss of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I wouldn't say we missed that, what they call tripwire. But you're right. They are in place to be, to catch these things. I just think something of this minor quantity just slipped under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic Amazon. You can build a pressure cooker bomb off of Amazon, with instructions downloadable in a matter of seconds of Googling. Scary stuff. I just want to pick you up on one other issue that's arisen in the last few weeks. The Blaze online publication linked to Glenn Beck, the sort of commentator, agitator, you might put him. Now, they named, and I'm not going to name her because she's now taking legal actions, they named a Capitol Police officer who now works at the CIA, guarding Langley rather than being a CIA agent. They cited intelligence reports that the Department of Intelligence have not denied that they were written and were circulating in government. What on earth happened there that allowed a seemingly innocent woman to be besmirched publicly based on a memo written by the administration?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. They seem to be very sure on the information when it first came out. I was very hesitant to, jump behind that. For me, being a police officer, media will come up and often say a lot of different things and identify people. I need to see the facts. I need to see the affidavit. I need to see arrest. I need to see a comment from DOJ, FBI. And we just weren't getting that on those. The gate analysis, that's an interesting take. It can be very effective.
It can be, but theirs was only 93% effective. I would be having a sleepless night putting that to print on 93% effectiveness. I mean, she's presumably in line for a massive check, isn't she?
Very well could. She, maybe seeking some legal action, like he had said. I had my doubts. I'd met her when she was on the department, and she just didn't seem to have the build. When you watch and you're watching the person walk around and dropping some of the bombs and walking by some of the places, but I just wanted to sit and wait. So I didn't jump on that bandwagon. And
well, yeah, it was noticeable. It was noticeable almost immediately. The administration was slightly, the sort of FBI and sometimes very vocal people within this administration very much were not tweeting their support for it. So while I've got your final question, there's been a big row back in London that's taken out the head of the BBC, the head of BBC News about January 6th. It's been back in the headlines in the United Kingdom for the last month or so now. It involved a documentary about the day of January 6th that the BBC put together, involving, they basically took two parts of Donald Trump's speech that day and spliced, the parts where he said, let's march on the Capitol, the parts with it say, they took out basically all the bits where he said it was peaceful. There's a bit of a row going on now, it's a sort of summary of what he said. So, do you believe that, he does still bear some responsibility for what happened that day? I know he's been through, various inquiries that found him, that said, yes, he did, but then the American public, in the court of public opinion, re-elected him despite that. Just want to pick your brains on whether you think he was unfairly traduced by the BBC and whether, he kind of has got away with this.
So, yeah, I do think the BBC, the editing that they did, I think was highly inappropriate. Sad to say, BBC at one point was like one of the last, trustable media outlets. And, what they did by splicing those two pieces of video together and taking out all the parts where he's talking about peacefully and patriotically, really made that seem like a call to action, violent action, which was highly inappropriate. And I think they've lost a lot of credibility over it. No, I don't think. I think, the president had every right to have the rally that he had. The comments he made during it, I don't think would, pass the precursor for legal threats, legal and inflammatory type of threats. To have officers, have people go up and march on my officers. So yeah, I don't think that's something that would have stand up in court, and I don't think that's appropriate what the BBC did to him.
All right, ex-Capitol Police Chief Stephen Stone, thank you very much for joining us. Come back and see us, hopefully, as the charges and hopefully a trial of the pipe bomb suspect gets underway in the coming months.